Jason, thanks for coming onto the show. Now, you are a graphic and a visual artist / illustrator from New York, based in Pittsburgh. Before we get into everything that's going on, not just in your world, but in this damn country right this second, we'll start off simple. Can you tell us how you got into this line of work and sort of the moment that sparked your passion for design and art? Like, is this something that developed over time, or did someone or something influence you?
Well, there was one pivotal moment in my life, and I was wild young when it happened. It was in grade school, and I wasn't very popular. I had friends, but I wasn't like, the cool kid. I was a nerd, like to the nth degree. And so that with that comes being picked on and bullied. And I love comic books. So what I would do is I would draw, and then I would like draw the bullies as like superheroes or as comic book characters. And like, I would just give it to them for, obviously for free because I was a kid. And that kind of like, changed how they saw me. So I wasn't like just a nerd anymore. I was like the cool nerd. And
Interesting.
So after that, like, I would like, got more ingratiated to them. And I also became like a math tutor, like a tutor to them. But like, it was because I had just built this rapport with them by drawing them as superheroes. I was just like, okay, there's something to art. Like, you can do things with this, and in like, kid lenses, it could save your life.
Yeah. How old are you?
I was so let's say, I believe that was like 6th grade.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was like, then I realized like there was a currency with art that was, beyond just things like looking pretty or just like,
you can do something with it. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. You could use it for like a message, or you could use it to stop you from getting your ass beat by like bullies that are twice your size.
Yeah. Damn. And so that was sort of the inciting moment that got you into illustration. And since then, has it always just been you having an interest in comics, or like how did sort of that artistic side of you develop? Did you stick with it in college and whatnot?
Yeah, so it's like, I mean, comics, I've always read comics. And then like in high school is when I really got into like manga and anime.
Yeah.
And then started playing Dungeons and Dragons, and characters like that. All of these things like kind of coalesce. And I was just like, like I said, I was a nerd. So I was like, I wrote poetry that was probably really bad too. And I was just like, I was like merging all this stuff into like, just like this creative expression. And like, whether it be like, like drawing on paper or even creating art with words. And then that just kind of kept going throughout university, where I started to like meet other people who were like similar to me and dissimilar to me, but had like, we had that one thing in common where I could learn from them and like kind of like exchange ideas. And like, it's where I learned how to like screen print and make t-shirts. So it went from like, just drawing comics for survival to just like, just drawing for like fun and just kind of like figuring out what the hell was going on inside my teenage brain. And to like, making designing t-shirts. And I got a job at the computer lab, the visual communications lab at university, so that I could like, support myself. I had no idea what the fuck I was doing. Like I said I knew all the programs. I had no idea what I was doing. Like,
I'm gonna go to YouTube University and just look it up. And
well, this was before YouTube. Like, this was even before that. So like, this is like in the like the late 90s.
Oh my gosh, so you're really risking it.
Yeah. I had no idea what I was doing. But I said like, yeah, I know Photoshop, I know Illustrator. And this is when like the Macs were in beige boxes. So I was just like, I can do that. Yeah, no problem. So the whole time I'm working there, I'm actually teaching myself how to use Photoshop. And we were monitors in the class. So we would have to like monitor all the stations while classes were going on, VizCom classes were going on. And I would just like watch what they were doing and like learn basically getting paid to learn how to do Photoshop and Illustrator.
Wow, that's nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so curious to know more about your artistic mind. But before we get into your career and sort of the work that you've done, um, as a New Yorker, seeing everything that's going on, seeing these protests, watching these bizarre and dangerous Trump press conferences, dealing with shitty white people who don't get why any of this is happening, and on top of all of this, we're still dealing with this life-threatening pandemic. How have you been holding up, and how have you been feeling through all of this? Do you and how like are your families okay? Are they in New York? Are you doing okay?
Yeah, so my family is like they're doing fairly well now. My mom had contracted it, and she was in the hospital for it. Yeah, she had the it sort of she was like she passed out in the bathroom
Oh my.
and like hit her head, so they thought she had a stroke, and they got her to the hospital, monitored her, and it turned out she was had pneumonia related to COVID-19, and she was like couldn't breathe, and just talking with her like gutted me, because I never seen my mom weak,
Yeah.
like even through all the like the bullshit that like she's been through in life
Uh-huh.
with like just me and like my sisters and everything like that. But then like outside of all that, like I had never seen my mom like weak,
Yeah.
and so like when I heard her that she like she couldn't breathe basically when she was talking, it gutted me, and like it was the first time I felt like truly lost, because I was just like, oh shit, I'm gonna lose my mom to this bullshit, and I didn't know how to deal with that. Like I was ready to lose her to like old age or like something like like a heart attack or anything like that, as
Yeah.
morbid as that sounds. But like for some reason in my head, like losing her to this bullshit, and I think it had to do with like this administration and this like
Uh-huh.
all this nonsense happening like that. I was
Uh-huh.
just like, nah, she can't go out like that. And so once like I was holding it together fairly well, but when that happened, it kind of took me out of things, and like I couldn't I couldn't focus. I couldn't do much of anything. I was just like concerned, and how I process worry and concern is like I kind of just get real solemn and shut down.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing that a lot. It was like a lot of just like fuck it, I'm not doing anything, and like laying in bed way too long, and my depression really got the best of me. But she's doing much better now. She's out of the hospital. She's like dancing and everything like that. Yeah,
Good.
she's
Good.
so she's like doing well, and they're like my sisters. They're also doing well now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think like it's on the up and up. All things considered, and you try to balance that with the rest of the bullshit that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can only imagine because you know, sort of speaking on what you're saying about like, you anticipate the complications that come with like old age, and it's like my mom's getting older too, and so it's 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 dark and it's kind of weird to talk about, but it's one of those things where it's like you just don't expect them to go that way or that
Right.
to happen, and it's one of those things like my mom is immigrated here, and so it's like you see this person as super strong and they've gone through all this shit, but then you see something that it's like out of your depth and you really do feel helpless. Yeah, that's I'm glad that she's okay. But yeah, I also wanted to go ahead and touch base on sort of the mental health aspect, but we'll go ahead and talk about that a little bit later. As someone who has taken an active role in local government and community work, I'm curious about your thoughts on how we progress from here. The protests happening right now seem to ring of a different tune, as if this is
Mm-hmm.
bigger or more determined than last time. What's your take on everything going on right now? Like in these times, should we, do you think that we should lean on the tried and true ideas of organizing strategy, or do you think that we need to do something fundamentally different?
I think it's like wholly. I think that something like there has to be a fundamental shift in everything, because like we're using the same, for lack of a better term, the same tired old methods that have
Mm-hmm.
been established by fucking people that didn't give a shit about anybody who looked like me or you. Like,
Mm-hmm.
they're the ones who set these precedents that we were trying to follow. So like we have to start to like evolve beyond this. And like I've seen it in like the communities that I've worked with, in and around Pittsburgh. It's just like you can kind of see it in like smaller pockets where it's just like people are really manifesting their own destiny. And when I say people, I'm speaking specifically of like the Black community.
Yeah,
like they're starting to like manifest their own destiny and take more charge. And a lot of that comes with like not just education, like a formal education, but it comes with this like a sharing of knowledge. So it's like what tends to happen here in the smaller communities in the pockets here is like there's that sharing of knowledge. And I think that like it's crucial to that like we use like, you know, some of this old knowledge, but we have to not just adapt, because adapting is just for survival. We have to start moving towards thriving, because like I'm done surviving. Like I want to thrive, and I want my people to thrive. So like there has to be like some type of fundamental shift. I would love to say like I would normally say like, yeah, we have to mix the old with the new and then balance the shit out, but like that's not working anymore. Like we need radical new ideas to change shit up. And every time there's like a wall that's thrown up or like a no, it's just like we have to challenge that no in a way that it's just like that people can see why they're being challenged and understand why they're fucking up in the game.
Do you what do you sort of expect to come out of this? Do you see any resolutions or anything changing after this?
Incrementally. Like it's a slow
burn
process. Yeah, it's going to be a slow ass process. Like it's going to be, we might see like a slight positive change, but I honestly feel like it's going to be back to the same old bullshit like next year and the year after that. Because like how long ago, like since America was founded, has this shit been going on? How long ago since like, you know, like land was stolen from Native Americans, since like slavery was introduced, since like railroads fucking being built out in the West? Like how long has this bullshit been like going on? And it's just like white supremacy, it's crafty as shit. And it understands how to maneuver and like, you know, navigate the game, because white supremacy created the game. We're the rest of us, we're the ones who are playing catch up, like, you know, with all the bullshit and the obstacles that they've set forth. Like we're still trying to maneuver around them, where they're creating new ones. Like as soon as we get around one, they created some whole other bullshit and, you know, elected some other asshole into the office.
Yep.
So it's I'm not utterly hopeless. It's just that I'm metering.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the really tricky things about this, and you touch base on it perfectly, you know, white supremacy, especially when you look at the tail end of how long and how deeply ingrained, because unfortunately it's like there's just too many people who really do think that racism is this like this thing that exists on the surface. You know, it's just like, oh, there are lots of people and racism is sort of a quality, like the same way that, oh, you know, you're impatient to wait at the deli or whatever. Like you think it's this tiny little thing, but you don't understand that it is truly embedded in the fabric of how we police and how we run this country and the history of this nation. And, you know, for people who are trying to fight back on white supremacy and who know the history of it, it's kind of a depressing and daunting giant to look at, because you know how enormous it is. But it's just one of those things where it's like you said, you know, Black community shouldn't be expected to only survive, but to thrive and to have more than just the bare minimum.